Welcome back. Thank you for joining me in this space where we reconnect with the wisdom of the natural world. Today we're talking about awe and wonder, those moments that stop us in our tracks and make us feel both incredibly small and profoundly connected. Moments that change not just how we feel, but how we see ourselves and the world around us. Welcome to The Nature of Mental Health, the podcast where we explore how time outdoors supports emotional well-being, resilience, and healing. I'm your host, Will Henry, clinical social worker, nature-informed therapist, and founder of Riverstone Mental Health Collective. Join me as we dive into practical tools, meaningful conversations, and inspiring stories that help us reconnect with the natural world and ourselves. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. Awe is one of those feelings that's hard to define, but unmistakable when it arrives. It's that breath-catching moment when something so beautiful, so vast, or so powerful stops the rush of your thoughts. And suddenly, you're not stuck in your head anymore. You're fully alive in the world. Awe is the opposite of shrinking into stress. It expands us, opens us, reminds us that there is more happening than the worries we carry. But awe isn't just poetic, it's biological. When we experience awe, our nervous system shifts into a calmer, connected state. Our sense of time slows down, we feel less alone, less preoccupied, more like ourselves. And interestingly, awe doesn't need to come from something huge. Sometimes the softness of morning light on a window, or the sound of a bird calling from the same tree every day, or the way water reflects the sky. Awe says, pause here. You are a part of something beautiful. Before science ever studied awe, many cultures already understood its importance. Here on Turtle Island, what is now called North America, Indigenous communities cultivated awe as a way of relating to the land. Before going deeper, I want to respectfully acknowledge the land that many of us are on has been stewarded by Indigenous peoples for thousands of years. Their knowledge continues to shape how we understand healing, connection, and belonging. Across tribes, nature wasn't separate from mental health. The earth wasn't scenery, it was kin. Emotions didn't need to be labeled as disorders. They were signals asking to be witnessed in community and in relationship with place. That is awe, a way of knowing I am connected, I belong, the land remembers me. In February 2025, I had a moment of awe I will never forget. I had the opportunity to travel out to California and spend a few days in Yosemite National Park. I had seen pictures, of course, heard stories, but nothing prepares you for the moment you actually arrive. We pulled into that first overlook, the one everyone stops at, and I remember stepping out of the car, taking a few steps toward the railing and just freezing. Not because it was winter in the mountains, but because the valley suddenly opened up before me, like a secret I wasn't meant to know yet. Granite walls rising thousands of feet into the sky, a hush in the air that felt sacred, the kind of view that rearranges your heartbeat. I felt a lump rise in my throat, my eyes flooded. I had to actually wipe tears away. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even thinking. I was just overwhelmed by beauty, by the sheer magnitude of what I was witnessing. It was magical, and it hit me in a way that felt ancient, like my body had been waiting for its whole life to remember something I had forgotten. Over the next 3 days, we explored the valley, walking below the towering face of El Capitan, surrounded by waterfalls that seemed too powerful to be real. Each turn of the trail offered something impossibly grand, something that reminded me of how young I am in the presence of mountains, and how small my daily worries really are. We even made our way to the Sequoia Grove, home to trees that have been alive for more than 1,000 years. A younger one stood apart, not in the protected area, and we tried to wrap our arms around its massive trunk. Not enough to even come close, but close enough to feel its presence. There was something humbling about touching a living thing that predates every one of my ancestors. A tree that has survived fires, storms, droughts, and still stands strong, offering shade and shelter without asking anything in return. Being in that grove recalibrated something inside me. Time felt bigger. Life felt bigger. And yet, I felt more held, not less. We were hoping to witness the famous firefall. For a few sunrises in February, when the conditions line up just right, Horsetail Falls glows a fiery red as the sun hits it at a perfect angle, turning the water into a streak of molten light down El Capitan's granite face. We were a little early in the season, but on the last evening we did catch a faint pink glow, just enough to understand why people travel from all over the world for that moment, just enough to feel lucky to be there at all. On our final day, we returned to that very first overlook, the place where awe had first taken hold of me. The valley looked a little different in the late afternoon light, softer, maybe because I was seeing it with less overwhelm and more relationship. As we stood there, taking it all in one last time, I quietly said thank you, a heartfelt gratitude for the gift of awe I had been given, for the reminder that the world is so much bigger than my inbox or my to-do list, for the understanding that beauty exists on a scale that doesn't require me to fix anything or to be anything other than present. When we drove away, I carried that feeling with me, the knowing that wonder was always out there, and sometimes, if we were lucky, we get to stand in front of it in an awesome way and remember who we are. What I experienced in Yosemite, that expanding feeling, is something researchers are deeply interested in. Scientists call it the small self, not in a diminishing way, but in a grounding, perspective-shifting way. I will include a few links to studies in the show notes for further reading, but some of what it says is that awe has been shown to lower stress hormones, reduce rumination, that looping anxious thinking, increase feelings of meaning and connection, boost creativity, and support overall emotional well-being. And this is for you clinicians out there. Scientists believe that awe can be a pathway to mental and physical health. A study done by Monroy and Keltner comments that the physiological profile of awe documented so far, which includes elevated vagal tone, reduced sympathetic nervous system activation, increased oxytocin, and reduced inflammation, is associated with enhanced mental health. They continue to posit that the amplified focus on the self that awe is responsible for has been found to positively impact a variety of mental health struggles, including depression, anxiety, body image problems, self-harm, alcohol and drug abuse, and eating disorders, as well as social problems such as aggression, racism, and bullying. Those comments speak to the idea that awe brings you into community. It builds connection to something larger than yourself, like we've been talking about. And when we feel connected, we feel less like hurting one another. All of that to say, awe is good for you. However, in awe, our problems don't disappear. They just stop being the center of our universe. We remember that we are part of a much bigger story. Awe tells us you're allowed to step out of the struggle and into wonder. So how do we invite awe into our daily lives without needing a national park? Here's a simple practice, the awe walk. On your next walk, whether it's a forest trail, a neighborhood street, or even a lunch break loop around the block, move a little slower than usual. Then choose one of these intentions. Look for something vast, the sky, a horizon, a tall building, or look for something tiny, a leaf vein, a snowflake, an ant's journey. Notice patterns like shadows, textures, branches, architecture, or pay attention to light, reflections, colors, sun through the clouds. Let curiosity lead. You're not trying to force awe, you're trying to make space for it. As I try to in most episodes, let's take a moment to ground ourselves and be present. If you're able, stand or sit with your spine gently lengthened. And if you're walking while listening, allow this to become your own little awe walk. Begin by slowly looking around you. Notice what your eyes typically ignore. Pick one object, a leaf, a building corner catching the light, the curve of a tree branch, anything simple. Now notice one detail about it you've never truly seen before. The way the color shifts, the texture, the shadows that dance across it. Let your breath soften. Breathe in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 6. In for a count of 4 and out for a count of 6. Now widen your focus. Take everything in. Imagine zooming the camera out. You're standing in a world that has existed long before this moment and will continue long after. Notice something vast. The sky, the horizon, a line of trees, the expanse of a hallway. Even the ordinary can feel extraordinary when we give it our attention. See if you can tap into that tiny sense of awe, that gentle wow, when you remember how much beauty exists without you having to do anything. There's a lightness that comes with awe, a reminder that you're part of something bigger, and you never have to hold the whole world alone. Take a breath in to 4 and out to 6. Into 4 and out to 6. Let's seal this moment with gratitude for what your eyes can see, for the earth that supports you, and for your capacity to feel wonder. When you're ready, gently return to your day, carrying just a little more amazement with you. Awe doesn't ask us to be better. Awe doesn't demand accomplishment. Awe says, look around. There's beauty bigger than the stress you carry. You deserve moments that remind you you are alive, you are connected, you are part of something vast and something very, very good. Thank you for spending this time with me today. May wonder find you this week, and may you pause long enough to notice. Thanks for listening to The Nature of Mental Health. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow, rate, and share the show. It helps others find their way to this community. For more resources, visit riverstonementalhealth.com. Until next time, notice the small spaces where nature meets your day. Stay curious, and may you find resilience in every season.